Welcome to the 4MileCircus, the official podcast of 4MileCircus, which is a media production and social media services company based in Brooklyn. Check us out at 4MileCircus.com. That's the number 4, followed by the word Mile Circus. My name is Sean Mannion. I'm a writer-director in Brooklyn.
And I'm Nicole. I'm the other half of 4MileCircus and a writer, director, producer based in Brooklyn. On this podcast, we will talk to independent artists and media makers about their relationships with social media. If you like what you hear, please subscribe on iTunes or your platform of choice and give us a 5-star review. It really helps spread the word about the show.
We're going to be live streaming this and future interviews on Facebook as we conduct them. So like 4MileCircus on Facebook to be notified of future live streams so you can see all our mistakes and comment with questions for the guest. Some questions may even make it into the show. On today's episode, we're featuring the 4th and final part of our interview with multi-talented indie film writer, director, producer Christina Raia of Congested Cat Productions and the celebrated monthly IndieWorks short film series. In this episode, we'll be discussing how Christina used social media to promote the release of her film Summit. But first, special just for you, here's our social media tip of the episode.
Yeah, sure. I've got a great tip for everybody today about social media, and it's that, okay, hold on to your hats here. Social media is social. That is not just a redundant statement. It is an important reminder for those of us who use social media for promotional purposes, because the hard truth of it is, if you join social media and you just start tooting your own horn constantly, and that's basically what you do, is just put out ads for your stuff, nobody's going to want to follow you probably. Other than hardcore fans, if you already have a ton of those who will just follow you anywhere through whatever hell you put them through. Wow, that got intense for a second. Social media is where people go to make friends. So you either have to make friends or pretend to make friends. You'll probably have more fun if you actually connect with like-minded people who are interested in the products and services that you are providing. And a good way to do that is to be social. Talk to them. Follow hashtag conversations about topics that relate to whatever your work or service that you're promoting is, and that you hopefully are actually interested in yourself. If you're on Facebook, join Facebook groups that are on topic. If you're on Instagram, definitely check out hashtags that pertain to whatever it is that you're trying to promote so that you can find other people who are going to be interested in it. You don't want to spam uninterested people. That's a great way to make enemies. It is not a great way to gain fans, followers, friends, or anything starting with F that might be good that we'll stop talking about right now. And that's my social media tip for the day. Anyone have anything to weigh in on that?
No, I think it's important. I think it's certainly something that I neglect sometimes. I forget about it sometimes. You get so bogged down in your projects and in trying to get anybody to pay any attention to it that sometimes you just kind of lose track of the fact that you're supposed to be talking with people, not at people. And it's important to get that reminder, I think, a lot.
Yeah. And I mean, general rule of thumb is what I tell people and what I try to do myself is whatever social media account, if you have more than one, it doesn't matter. This pertains to all of them. Try to have more posts going out that are not blatantly, flagrantly, and primarily self-promotional than are. You know, if I'm posting buy small talk twice a day on Twitter like I am, which you can do at 4MileCircus.com/store for $4.99 for the deluxe package, you want to at least 3 times a day be tweeting out about other stuff like I also do, because I'm always on Twitter complaining about, should I buy this dress on eBay or not? Help me. I can't make decisions because of my anxiety issues. And it got intense again.
You're so intense.
I'm so intense. Cool. So we're so psyched to have Christina on again to talk about the release of Summit.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for sticking with us for the discussion. I mean, I'm not going to try to hide the fact that we just sat and recorded these first 4 episodes in one long session. And,
No, it's how we do things.
Yeah, I think it's good because we got the conversation going and it flows. So, just continuing, Christina, if you're just joining us, is a filmmaker based out of Queens, and she has made quite a number of things, but in particular we're focused on her feature film Summit, which you can go and you can buy right now. It's summitthemovie.com, isn't it? Yeah, summitthemovie.com. And that's specifically what we're going to talk about today is her self-distribution, her release of the film, and how social media did or didn't impact it, because I think it's just as important to talk about, not relying on social media for everything, and I think we did with our crowdfunding episode, as it is to talk about the value of it. So let's just jump into, how did you use social media to promote the release? You certainly kind of built up to it, but...
Yeah, we built up to it. We were kind of using our festival run to build some hype, because we had a set date. I was going to release it on January 18th, 2016, which was the 3-year anniversary of the first day of production of the film. Okay. So we kind of had that date far in advance. And every time we would screen at a festival, it was kind of like, oh, if you missed it here, you can catch it online on this day. And so there was hype built up, and so people were anticipating it. And then just I had this kind of base of people that were engaged for over 3 years, who were waiting for it. So people knew the date was coming, so when we released, we kind of had this huge boom of people that shared it. And I also sent out emails and newsletter and kind of got people ready to create momentum behind the release.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. And tell me a little bit about you mentioned talking about, in the last episode, you mentioned talking about festivals. Mm-hmm. as you were going to. What did you do
at festivals?
Yeah, what did you talk, like, did you blogged about them? What like?
Oh, I did recaps that was focused on kind of what the experience was, if I was a part of any panels, if like I included photos or any videos, and I would share, like, something that was sort of effective was sharing quotes from people. So if anyone had a comment about the film, any kind of testimonial or anything, I would share it and include their Twitter handle, and then they would hopefully retweet it or comment or kind of want to share it more because I had highlighted something they said. And I would collect cards as much as possible, or emails as much as possible, so that when we released it, I was able to email them and say, hey, the film can now be watched online through rent or purchase. And I just tried to, like, continue building the world of the film as an experience. So that's sort of how I tried to use festivals in terms of social media.
Okay, that's cool. And that and as you're saying, you sort of use that as, like, if you missed the festival, it's coming out at this time.
Right, and also just like to collect people's opinions about the film so that I would have stuff to share and get reviews. Like, that was pretty cool, was that we got a lot of reviews, so that when, not a lot, but like a handful, so when the film was released on VOD, I had these reviews to share with people to kind of entice them. And it was kind of cool, like, just having my favorite moment was that in Rhode Island, we screened at, as part of the Rhode Island International Film Festival, their kind of sub-genre fest, and I used the hashtag #SummitTheMovie on Instagram, and, like, I was searching it one day, and this, like, guy who I ended up meeting at the festival, he and his girlfriend had, like, a photo of them in the car with, like, tickets, and they were, like, off to see #SummitTheMovie, and I thought that was awesome, because, like, he had been following the film. Nice. And I had no idea who the hell he was, and then I met him, and I was like, you're awesome, because I didn't have to ask you to do that. And he ended up emailing me because he was, like, an aspiring filmmaker, and so he wanted some advice about finding a cast. But it was just kind of cool that, like, people festival run helped get people's interest, even if they couldn't see the film. They were like, oh, where else will this be? Or who
Right.
made this? How can I find them?
So you saw a good return on sort of that investment in social media from before you started even crowdfunding for Summit. Is that right? Like it kind of pulled through. I mean, you said 3 years.
I mean, yeah, as good as you can expect in this day and age of
Right.
distribution. I mean, I haven't profited off the film, but I have seen some money and just general anticipation and engagement and carry over to other projects. And so that's sort of the success in my mind, is that the majority of those people have continued to follow me in my work, even if the majority of our contributors and early social media followers got the film for free because they backed it on Kickstarter at like the $25 level, you know. So there wasn't that was kind of lost in that there were a significant number of people who got it for free because of being Kickstarter backers, but they were like word spreaders, you know.
Right.
So they were amplifiers, and they have been amplifiers of my work in general. So
That's awesome.
Yeah. And did that, I guess, like you're saying, you didn't really profit off of it, but like, did it turn into sales, do you think? Like, did it benefit sales?
It did. It absolutely did. I mean, I didn't really promote the film in the real world very much beyond festivals, and after it was released, I was so like tired of it in terms of talking about it, that I really didn't plug it other than it living on social media and just trying to keep activity going, like from the Twitter page for the film and stuff like that. And so it has gotten some attention because of the reviews we've gotten, and just the general interest in women in horror, like kind of using hashtags and stuff like that, has been helpful. Yeah, whenever I do promote it, I see results. When it's just like sitting there, I don't see anything. So social media has a big impact. And I would say that regardless of like Summit, my web series Kelsey, for instance, which I shot after Summit but released immediately in 2013, that was like self-distributed and it was free, but we had ads, and so like I've made some money off of ad revenue for Kelsey. We didn't make the money back that we spent on it, but I made more on Kelsey than I did through rentals on Summit.
Right.
And that was, social media was huge for that, because it was just like people who wanted to consume this content and then just like sharing it. Because it was, you know, LGBT and like specifically a lesbian main character, there was this hunger for that representation, and so we were reaching a lot more people who were just like regular people, like not filmmakers, who were audience members who were like wanting to watch this and then wanting to share it with their network of friends. And so yeah, and like that wouldn't have happened without social media as well.
Yeah. So just to kind of look back on all the things we've been talking about, would you say that like overall, like the experience of working with social media and Summit, is it a positive experience, a learning experience? I mean, you did a lot of things in between as well, like as you were going, like what kind of experience would you say it was? Did you learn a lot from it? Was it just generally awesome?
I learned a lot. It was a lot of experimenting early on and figuring out what works, and and it is positive because like I said, no one would really know about the film or see the film if not for social media and the ability to directly target my audience and its audience. But you know, it's work, and what I think people have to understand about social media and filmmaking in the current state of independent film is that it is not just something you do for this project or like this period of time. It is about constantly being active, and not just being active when you want something from people, but just like embracing it as part of your life, that you know you need to be not only sharing in between projects but contributing to the community and just like this entity that is social media it's like it's long term. Like this is my life now. Like I have a life, and I try not to I try to have moments where I'm away from my phone, and that's important as well, but for the most part, like part of my career is being on social media, being active on social media, being engaged beyond just my own work on social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when that kind of social media work is the most effective is when it is, as you said, community.
Yeah.
Like it's an online community that maybe intersects with your real world community as well, and it's real in its own right, even though it's online. But yeah, it's not a space where you can market to people. It's a space where you are and live and interact, and some of that interaction is marketing.
Yeah.
But you, like you were saying, you have to, in between projects, still show up
Right.
and say hi and support other people's projects and talk about whatever stuff, is why people were interested in following you in the first place.
Right. And that's, I think, a big mistake filmmakers make in particular, is like only being active when they're crowdfunding or when they're trying to promote something, and then just like being completely dead in between.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that. You just kind of come back only when you need to ask for something, and that's...
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
Yeah,
No,
it doesn't work.
It doesn't work because then that's all you do.
Right.
That's all you do. And I mean, I know, like for me, and I'm sure for both of you, it gets really exhausting.
Yeah.
Which is weird. It shouldn't be like I oftentimes like can't stand Facebook because it feels like work all the time. I'm trying to be less, and this is just being good on social media. I'm trying to be less work oriented sometimes and try to just share things. And I'm like, this is dumb and fun. This is I think today it was something about somebody shared a panel from a comic book where Doctor Doom is blowing into a horn and it says toot. It's a joke. It's a joke about I don't know. It was just silly. And I think there was a brief period of time where I probably wouldn't have shared stuff like that because I was like, no, I got to be all filmmaking and stuff like that. I have to be and then I forget to be me.
Yeah.
And it's an exercise even to like decide to like do that. I also just personally, I don't know about you guys, but like my family wasn't big on like taking pictures and stuff like that. So it's not like part of my way of being to always take pictures, for Instagrammers. And I love Instagram, and I love doing stuff with Instagram, but it's just not part of like my head. So I have to think about it, and I have to think about like what's sharing there. And for me, sometimes it becomes a little bit mechanical in terms of like deciding like I'm going to share these people's projects and I'm going to plan to do that ahead of time because I want to do that, but I have to take the time to think about doing it. I don't know if that's the same for
similar.
you.
It's similar. I mean, certain kinds of things. I'm really bad at taking photos. This has been bad for me in my career. I'm very bad at taking photos of myself, and I'm very bad at taking photos of other people. I'm very good, or good might be the wrong word. I'm very regular about taking photos of inanimate objects that, like, I took a nice photo of some stuff that I guess your neighbors left on your steps when I was coming up here. There was an interesting enamel cat frame with a weird old-timey 50s heartthrob looking guy in it, and a mirror and some other miscellany, and it looked very pretty on your blue steps. And so I took a picture, and later I will Instagram it. But I'm less good at taking a photo of, like, here's me on set working, doing the thing that I'm supposedly doing. Like, right. And that's something I need to, like, make a point. And usually it involves asking people to help. Be like, hey, can you guys, while we're on set, can you take photos so I can Instagram them later? Because, I mean, if I'm directing, I shouldn't be taking Instagram photos anyway. But even if I'm not, it was a little easier, for instance, when I was art director on Meme, Sean Mannion's, my co-host's movie that I was the art director on, because then I kind of had a reason, because I had to take photos anyway of like how stuff was set up, and so took a ton of photos, and those were useful for Instagram purposes. But so we can get into social media Instagram tips for production on another occasion. And I think it's just sort of interesting in that doing this and it being like part of our work, but also part of that work is also just living your life and also just sharing it and making sure that like you're a person as well as a brand.
Right.
And I don't want to get into like fetishizing authenticity in a meaningless way, but you're being like you said, you're being yourself. You're being a version of yourself. Maybe it's a slightly more social and together version of yourself than you may feel like
Maybe
you
that
are.
would help me a lot if I did that. If I pretended to be a more together version of myself.
Slightly, just slightly.
If I wasn't like all the time.
Yeah, but also letting the seams show, as has come up in this interview, is also important. Like, and I can share anecdotes at some point about that. There are times in social media and even crowdfunding where I think sometimes being honest about being scared and worried and in a precarious place. You know, people want to back winners, but people also want to back real people, not superheroes who don't need you.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
If people don't think that you need the support, if they're like, "Oh, you're fine." You're fine.
Yeah.
Then they're not even going to pay attention.
Yeah.
Like they're going to, you know, I mean, and I mean that gets into a lot of things about how all that stuff is really at its core not about you, the person making the project, but your project in a lot of ways when you're crowdfunding or anything like that, where you're trying to get people to pay attention, is a lot more about the audience and making sure that they care about it. It's they'll never care as much about your project as they care about the things that they're interested in their own lives, which is normal. There's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. I'm not judging it. I'm kind of judging it.
I was just going to say, I think it's also just important for people to see that it's work, that you're putting the work in.
Yeah.
Because people don't always think that filmmaking is work or that movies take work. And it's labor. Like, you know, beyond, it's physical labor, but it's also just like mentally and emotionally taxing. And I think it's good to show that because that's part of what gets people engaged and feeling like this is something they're actually making or becoming part of making. And so including some of like the struggle is important. And showing that, you're not just like sitting at your computer. That's not just the job of filmmaking.
And that being on set isn't just getting to get these awesome shots of this amazing action. It's mostly like injuring yourself, carrying heavy stuff because...
Right, and that there are so many people behind the scenes that don't get the credit.
Yes.
Yeah. There's a lot of people behind the scenes that don't get the credit and that don't get the... you know, you try to acknowledge people, but they don't always get the acknowledgement that they deserve. You know, if the three of us are... We all help other people in different ways, but we also are all primarily directors. But there's at least a few people that we all work with that all they do is they've got set jobs and they... And, you know, Erin, who I don't think is watching, but if she was, I'd call her out more specifically, is probably one of the best people to have on set. But
absolutely,
you know, she unsung heroes, I guess, is what the phrase is of making things happen and making things and like... you know, they don't get to be the stars on the screen, and their name isn't like the biggest one on the thing, but you can't make it without people like that.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. And if everything's going right, then really those are the people who are making the movie, and we as the directors are just like, you know, sitting there drinking coconut water or whatever while everybody else is making the movie happen.
Basically, yeah.
If you're me, because I'm very lazy.
Because you're very lazy and you love the coconut water. No, it's true.
They're the ones,
it's
like,
a huge
executing.
thing. Yeah. You have the ideas and you have the thing that you want, and they're the ones who like even more so than you like know how to get it done and know what needs to happen.
Right.
And because you can't know all those things and you can't do all those things as many times as you try. I know I've certainly tried to be as like almost one man band as possible, but it's not necessarily, it's not good for you, it's not good for the project. It's usually not healthy for you as a person either. No. There's too much to do. You got to have that top down view, you got to have that broad view of things so that other people can like look at the details and then tell you what you need for that.
Right, they specialize, and like that's because they're good at that thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they don't know what the whole scope is. Sorry, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. They have useful skills.
Yeah.
My skill is I come up with something I think would be cool, and then somehow find a way to get the money to get enough people around to make my cool thing happen for me. It's a very weird thing. Like, it's a very... Being a director is a very weird ego position to be in, you know? Yes. Like, I've described it as, at a certain point, I realized, I'm like, oh, this is like being a bad friend when you're a little kid. This is like, all of my friends are going to come over to my house, and you're going to play the game I want to play, and you're going to do exactly what I tell you to do. No, your character wouldn't do that. Your Barbie wouldn't do that. Your little Boba Fett, whatever it is, wouldn't do that. It's going to do what I say for it to do. And I'm just going to sit here and watch it all happen. And it's nuts. I'm like, this can't be a job. This is being an asshole. Like, this is being an asshole little kid.
But, like, then, so to counter that, you try to, like, give opportunities to the people that work for you where they can get paid gigs and stuff like that. And, like, plugging them.
Yes, and hopefully they're enjoying what they're doing.
Exactly. Hopefully that's like what they want to be doing. And then you kind of can hopefully plug them and give them other opportunities. I know that I try to. I know that Sean has stolen like half of my crew.
I still have half of her crew because I helped on Kelsey, and we can talk about that in a second because I have a story about that I want to talk about on a recording. But yeah, because I helped out on Kelsey. I did sound poorly for most of it. And I did some set dressing for it. There was that last day of shooting where I had like 4 jobs. Yeah. Really that brunch scene is the best. I'm just gonna say it's the best art directed scene in the entire series. No. But I mean, and that plays into, and I think we're kind of running a little over, so maybe we can talk another time. We can all get together a different time and just rant about all the production stuff. But just to, I guess, wrap it up, unless anybody either online or you, Nicole, have any other questions about how kind of social media played into the release and the promotion of the release.
No, I mean, I could talk about
anything else.
I could talk about this all day, but I think I think we got some useful information out there, and I want to move on to the games.
To the games, to the fun game. So this one's a little bit more complicated than the last one. It might take a minute to think. So and you could play at home as well, although it might be a little bit more complicated than the quiz games that we just did. This one is about if you were to start a rules-based film movement, much like Dogma 95, and actually I just realized that I'm wearing an appropriate shirt for that. This is my Van Halen Von Trier shirt, so that's funny. I didn't do that on purpose. I just grabbed the first thing on the top of the pile. But so if you were to start a rules-based film movement like Dogma 95, what are, and let's just say it's 3 rules that you would set for projects. What are the 3 rules, and which one of those 3 rules are you most likely to break? Because if you've read about the Dogma 95 people, which I've mostly read, I haven't really watched it as much, you know that there's like 1 that followed all the rules. Maybe, I think all of them broke the rules all the time.
But they did too many rules.
Yes, they had
12 rules.
They had like 12 rules which was fun. But like so if you have 3 rules for projects in this new film movement of yours, what are your 3 rules, and which one of those are you most likely to break?
I mean, I can go first if you guys want to think.
Go for it. I actually need to think. I wrote the question. I didn't actually.
I've been thinking about this all interview because I saw it in front of me and I was like, oh shit, I better come up with my rules-based movement rules. So my rules would be no non-diegetic sound, which I believe is also a Dogma 95 rule. I think so, yeah. But I like that one. So for those of you at home, that means like any sound, music, etc. that you hear in the film has to be something that's occurring within the action that you're seeing on screen. You can't have a song added that the characters on screen are not also hearing, unless the characters are deaf or have some sort of thing obstructing their ears, but it needs to be a sound that is happening in the space being depicted. So that's one. Another rule I think I would do is no titles added in post-production. So any sort of text that appears on screen would need to be shot by a camera. So you'd have kind of like an old-timey, whole long list of credits that somebody would be cranking in my image that is sepia-toned, going down the screen or whatever. You can handwrite it. You can get signs made. You can use fonts, but they just need to be shot by a camera. Yeah. So that's my second rule. No post-production titles. And my third rule would be no simulated inebriation of any kind. If any of your characters are drinking any kind of alcoholic beverage, doing any kind of drugs, taking any kind of allergy medication, anything that might be mood altering, I am making a terribly irresponsible rule for the purposes of this game right now, which is that you have to actually ingest that substance. No grape juice, no sugar pills, no nothing. You're...
Speaking of substances.
Yes. So
I have a...
So those are my rules, and I would break none of them.
None of them.
None of them.
I have a funny story. On the set of Kelsey, the location was often a bar. And so one day, I'm not going to say who it was, but it was a crew member who was not very good at her job. She was very difficult to work with. But she was filling in as, like, the prop master or something one day. And there was supposed to be a glass of wine for one of my actors that was not supposed to be a real glass of wine.
Oh my
And I
God.
didn't find out until, like, 3 takes in, or, like, multiple takes, because we had changed the angle a couple of times, that she was just giving him real wine, and he had to go to work later that day. And, like, he didn't say anything because he didn't want to be rude or something. And I was like, why would you not say something?
Because he's getting free wine.
Yeah, I wouldn't say anything.
And it was also, like, ridiculous because she was taking it from the bar that we were shooting at for free, but we were obviously not being given free wine.
No.
And, like, I had no idea. And it was towards the end of the shoot, like, the 15-day shoot, and I was really losing my patience with her in general, and I had to really, like, contain myself and not just, like, go off on her. But I had to, like, kind of pull her aside and say, you know, this is not okay. And I don't the logic, I just don't understand the logic of it, because we had, like, things to use for the fake wine that was sitting right there that we had bought. And so that was just really ridiculous on a lot of levels.
That's a new one.
Yeah.
That genuinely
That's great.
surprised me.
that sort of extra. I mean, I've been on sets where we're like, oh, you just have a drink.
Sure, but, like, that was, I mean,
That's different.
What if he was,
That's
like, an
different.
alcoholic and couldn't have any alcohol? Like, what if, you know, she didn't ask him, she didn't tell him, she didn't ask me, she didn't tell me, she just,
Right.
like, took it upon herself to, like, spike his drink,
Yeah.
essentially.
That's like crossing an ethical line.
Yeah.
In a few different ways, in addition to being really fucked up in terms of you're using this space. And
Yeah.
anyone who's ever shot in a bar knows that they don't usually just give you all you can drink free alcohol. If you ask nicely, they'll probably let you use, like, the soda pump. So you can
Right.
give people soda water and pretend that it's vodka tonics.
Mm-hmm.
And or if you're me, you can just go steal the vodka. No, I've never stolen liquor from a bar I've shot at.
I remember that. I don't remember the specifics of it happening because I wasn't really paying attention on set because, I mean, I was hungover like half the time anyway. So what would your 3 rules be?
Oh, man, I didn't have anything prepared.
That's okay.
Off the top of your head. And we'll hold you to these. So
Yeah.
you have to
I
think on your feet.
can go as well if you need another minute.
Well, I know that one of them would just have to be about the cast and crew, like white people and men not being able to make up more than a third, I think. Like, that should be... Does that count?
Yeah.
Yeah, that totally
Yeah, that
counts.
counts.
It's a rule. It doesn't
It's a
have to be a
rule.
good rule. But that is a good rule.
That is actually a useful rule, unlike mine, everybody inebriated rule.
I like your rule.
That was a
Well,
fun
of course
rule.
you
That was
like
a
that
fun
rule.
I think that that you can't like fix things in post. That you
Okay.
can't,
That would be really hard for you.
I know, it would be very hard for me. That's the one I would break. Absolutely. But yeah, because I think that has become like a crutch as for filmmakers now.
Yeah.
It's an advantage, and it can be so useful. It was so useful for me in so many ways. But just that, like, you can use it too much. So you can't change anything in post or fix things.
Like masking something out of the background or
Right.
something is what you mean. You don't mean like basic color correction.
No, just like, yeah, doing visual effects to improve something that doesn't look the way you want or
Right.
turn out the way that you wanted.
Right.
So it's like either you got it or you didn't. And like you have to find a way to make it work with what you have in that way.
Okay.
It is broad. I mean, it could be confused with like color correction or even like sound. I don't know.
I was gonna ask about sound.
Fixing. I mean, I would definitely like break that in a heartbeat if I couldn't fix sound in post.
Right.
A third one. Something really, really bizarre. There has to be a cat.
Great.
In the background of at least one scene in every film.
Great.
That's a good one.
For it.
I think that's really good. So I had a couple of them, and then I'm spacing on one, but I'm stealing your non-diegetic sound one because I like that rule. I don't really like. I'm not a big fan of like putting soundtracks in my stuff. Like,
I'm not a. Sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm not a fan of music.
Yeah.
I like sound, like experimenting with sound.
Yeah, that's
in
interesting.
ways, but like I think people overuse music a lot.
Yeah, and I mean it's definitely got a huge role to play, but it also can sometimes feel a little much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know what my other ones were, or at least one of my other ones. The other one is it's because I'm sick of them and I'm tired of them. Is no crime movies, no like mafia movies, no hitman movies. I'm so fucking tired of hitman movies. Like 22-year-olds who write a hitman movie, who like I'm like, what the fuck do you know about that?
Well, they've seen a lot of Hitman movies,
Exactly.
Sean, to be fair.
So no non-diegetic sound, no hitmen movies, no crime movies, and you guys had some good ones. I want to steal your one about the 30% white people thing. So no more than 30%. I'm gonna steal that one.
Okay.
And then honestly, that's probably the one I'd break. Although it's I might also break the non-diegetic sound one. So let's wrap up. This was episode 4 of the 4 Mile Circus, and Christina, why don't you give people a reminder about where they can find you on the internets?
Sure, you can find me at my website, ChristinaRaia.com, or CongestedCat.com, which is my company site. You can also find out more about IndieWorks on our website. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram at CRAIA9, the number 9. And yeah, I'm on a lot of social media, so you can probably find me through Googling in general.
And 4 Mile Circus, we are 4MileCircus.com. That's the number 4, the word mile, the word circus, all in one. And that's 4MileCircus.com, at 4 Mile Circus on Instagram and Twitter, /4MileCircus on Facebook, where we are currently live streaming, podcasting, and we hope to do that again the next time we record some episodes. So please keep an eye out for that. And I have a question. There's a question and links for trailers, so I'll put those in the comments there for you, Roger. Also, people can buy Nicole's film, Small Talk, at 4MileCircus.com/store for just $4.99. You can get the film with quite a lot of special features, including behind the scenes and
audition footage, humorous outtakes of problems that we had that we think are funny, including such things as not being able to make gore effects work correctly. And interviews and trailers, the score, the award-winning score you get a download of, as well as the beautiful high-resolution image of the original poster that people like a lot, and a bunch of other stuff.
And also, summitthemovie.com, you can get Christina's film. Summitthemovie.com, you can get Christina's film. Plenty of special features if you want them, or just the movie, or you can just rent it for $2.99. So that's the show.
That's it. This has been the 4 Mile Circus. Please subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and leave us 5-star reviews so we can keep getting excellent guests, such as Christina Raia, who can talk to you about independent art and media making, social media and where the twain shall meet. That's what it is. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
If you like what you heard, please subscribe on iTunes or your podcast platform of choice, and check out other 4 Mile Circus services and projects at 4MileCircus.com, as well as 4 Mile Circus on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Watch our first VOD release, Nicole's award-winning feminist phone sex horror comedy Small Talk, at 4MileCircus.com/store, and be sure to check out Christina Raia's work at CongestedCat.com and chat with her on most social media platforms, on which she is CRaia9. Catch you next time.